we've got first, second, third generation black indigenous people in Great Britain. What would you ask of us to help and repair?
Warrior up. Take to the streets, make your voice be heard. Get arrested if you have to, but make sure that the message is out there. There's very few that are at the very top of this pyramid that's making the money and the decisions. They're just human beings, just like you and me. And us, we call ourselves protectors of water, defenders of Mother Earth. But in reality, we're not just protecting nature, we are nature, protecting itself.
Part of our communities that are saying enough is enough. And what we want to do is, when you can sit and try to have peaceful conversations and when it lays on deaf's ear, especially when you're building the table and the chairs that they're sitting at and we're not invited to the table of justice or even word of reasoning and stuff, I think it's time that we need to start building our own, and this is what we're doing, is we're building these movements and this stuff, this awareness. And what is so sad is that the enticement of such as like a perpetrator, when they groom in this stuff of society of their needs and what they want, we're kind of clipping those wings. And we're bringing it back to, we can't be separating one another from one another anymore.
And Mother Earth is under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! And Mother Earth is under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back!
We're here speaking some points to the action today. And I don't have the full names of everybody in short bios, but here it is. Since the Paris Accord was signed in 2015, the world's 60th largest banks have continued to finance climate chaos by providing $3.8 trillion in funding for the fossil fuel extraction and related infrastructure. Of these big banks, JP Morgan Chase is the worst. They have provided the most funding for fossil fuels, $316 billion. JP Morgan funds some of the worst and most destructive types of fossil fuel projects, including tar sands, Amazon oil and gas, Arctic oil and gas, fracking, coal mining, offshore oil and gas, and pipelines like Line 3 and Coastal Gas Links and pipelines. We have representatives from the indigenous frontline communities that are being directly impacted by the extraction of JP Morgan Chase and that is financing. We're here to tell the bank to stop funding climate chaos, stop funding the destruction of our lands and our communities, stop funding violence against indigenous women and girls, and stop funding violations of indigenous rights. This is an action that has been organized by Indigenous Climate Action and the It Takes Roots delegation. We have speakers, and we'll start today with Grandmother Mary Lyons speaking about Line 3 in the Anishinaabe lands of Minnesota.
Good job. First of all, I want to make sure that the note is, I'm just one old woman here, very proud to be on this earth here, but I carry many ancestors in me and around me. But what's most importantly, I love to carry all our young people, old people, our water, air, land protectors forward. While they're up at the front lines right now freezing and going against people like, I can't even repeat that name because it just doesn't warrant that coming from my mouth. But we all know who these people are that are bringing humanity down. And it's these frontline warriors that are standing up for you, your children, and the future children from all around the globe. I can't say enough because most of the water protectors in this stuff aren't just indigenous people, aren't just people that look like us. We have allies, we have scientists, we have just about every professional that's in there because they believe in what is happening to all of us. The sad thing about it is because they stand up and fight for our rights, our natural rights to exist, they will no longer be able to work in society because they are pushed down, locked down, jailed up in this stuff and are striking with felonies and everything else against them. But yet, they surrender themselves because they believe in the future for the world. I cannot say enough about our land protectors, our air protectors, our water protectors. I cannot say enough for our frontline warriors that are up outside the world and trying to help and bring that recognition to them. We cannot let this sit still because most media within The lands where I come from will not even advertise this. So we have to wear our advertisement on ourselves to bring to the attention to the world what is happening. Because you have to remember, one drop of poison, even if it's in our area, you will taste that no matter where you're at in this world. So I want to say, everybody out there, when you hear or see anything, or hear anybody saying anything bad about our protectors and this stuff, take a moment and just look at that water you're drinking. Just feel that breath you're putting in yourself. Remember, they are fighting for you and the children yet to be born. I want to say, Jeannie Gwitch, the thing is, I look at all you young people. Now, we're from the old school. We're from the old school days of protesting. Hey, wait a minute here, sister. But you know, the thing is, one of the things you have to remember, as much as I can get geared up, and the thing is, my clothing, I don't even know, most of my clothing is sub-degree weather. I always have to be ready as if you're going to be out there in the front lines. I'm just nothing but mere there for a moment for them, to remind them that we love them, we care about them, and we appreciate them. So I try to bring forth and sing their voices forward, because they have gone through hell and back, let me tell you. And especially Standing Rock. A lot of the water protectors there, what they were sprayed with. We had one of the most chemical worst warfare on these individuals, and they have to live with it for the rest of their lives. Nobody seems to care about them. We even had to bring a reporter out there, and he only stayed for 1 day. We had to bring another one, and he stayed for 5 or 6 days. Listen, what is it going to take to bring the world to attention about what is happening here today? The one thing I can put out there to the public is that there is, every time you turn that faucet on with water or seawater, or do whatever you want, you start thinking about how safe is that water, because we pay a lot of money for it to be filtered for us to put into our bodies. There is no more life in that water. That is just liquid. We can't even swim in these rivers. We can't even nourish from the food lives. We have animals that are coming in from their own forest lands in our backyards for most of the humans and this stuff to turn around and kill them because they fear them. Listen, this is a connector. This isn't just somebody else here and there. There is a dot that connects everything, and it's called life. This is one planet. Air shows no prejudice. Water shows no prejudice. And land shows no prejudice. This is our home, Mother Earth. And we have to fight to keep her clean. Jeannie Good.
This is Casey from the Indigenous Environmental Network. That's a frontline that is also experiencing frontline extraction from the fossil fuel industry. Funded by Chase.
Judy Ponca of the Mashke Ponca, Oklahoma. Judy is my true name. I'm a Ponca woman from Oklahoma. Casey Campornik is my colonized names. And I want to know what are their names? What are the ones up there who should have a sign that they have to wear that say, I'm a mass murderer.
Yes.
I kill people. I kill wildlife. I kill nature. I kill the future of the earth. I kill all of her children because I'm a mass murderer, and my decisions are the ones that are going to create a destruction for all of us, for all of our relatives, for all of the nations that we live in. I live in an area that is impacted by the extractive industry in such a way that the air has been murdered, that the water herself has been murdered, that the earth herself is defiled and raped by these people, where women, children, unborn, don't even have a chance to live before they die from the effects of the pollution that these people fund. I want you to realize that they are fleeting. They walk on 2 legs. Their life is short. Someone is giving them power. I'm grateful that my relative here wouldn't even say the ugly name of these people, because when you say their name, it gives them power. So I will say the name of Ni Wahubi, the sacred sun. I will say the name of Ni Wahubi, the sacred water. I will say the name of the winds that blow and the moon mother and of your future generations. I will say the name of the sacred deer and the sacred buffalo. I will say the name of the fins that swim in the waters. I will say the name of the ancestors that they've killed. I'll say the name of every woman that has been raped and murdered in the name of the fossil fuel regime coming into our territory. I will say the name of the unborn who can't even make it to birth because their mamas don't have good water, good food, and good air to breathe. Each one of you wearing a mask today, say thank you to them, because this is going to be our norm. Not only these pandemics because of the misbehavior of humans who refuse to live within the natural laws, but because we're going to not be able to breathe the air that they leave behind. We have to say no to carbon trading. We have to say no to net zero. We have to say no to any of those false solutions that this UN, United Nations, oh my goodness. Ariel was saying the other day, and I learned something, that for every indigenous person here, there were 2 from the fossil fuel companies here. And who did they get to meet? And who did we get to meet? Those decision makers, they call themselves, don't have the idea. All of us could walk in here right now with the wealth that they think they've accumulated, these murderers, these mass murderers that go down in history with Andrew Jackson, with Hitler, with Bolsonaro. And if we grabbed what they called riches, it's in the form of plastic or paper that we can't eat, we can't drink, and we can't breathe. Realize what the value is. Repeating again, those of us who have stood at Standing Rock or front lines at home or in prayer, we're not protecting nature. We are nature protecting itself. Remember that. You are a part of all that is, and you are a sacred being. You have an opportunity to warrior up. Do that.
We are nature! 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 We are nature!
Before I leave, there's one thing I want to say. You know, line 3, they got it in the ground and they're starting to pump things through. We have the Great Lakes, that's international waters in that there that we have to safe and really secure. But also, we also have to stand with line 5 and all the other camps that are around the United States. I had a good friend that just passed away, and he said to me, Kokum, there is no planet but Plan B. What do you think are the solutions? He always had a conversation, and I have to say his name. His name is Martin Dewey. We have Madonna. I can't tell you how many protectors that are out there that have walked on. But until I walk on, I'll always say their names because they've done so much for all of you. So I want to say Chimiquet.
Now we have the director of the Indigenous Climate Action and Ariel.
Eklanete, Dene Sottaneta Ariel Tseekwe Hushe Duranje Betsiani Hasli. My name is Ariel Tseekwe Duranje, and I am Dene or Dene Suttane from Treaty 8 territory, home to the largest industrial project on planet Earth, the Alberta tar sands. JP Morgan Chase is the largest financier of the oil that's being extracted from my territory, the largest financier of the death of our river systems, the death of our ecosystems, the death of many of the keystone species like caribou, bison, moose, and many other species that were critical to our livelihoods, to our culture, to our food systems. Now our territories are lying in ruin. And every year, as climate change becomes worse, the climate crisis worsens the crisis for our communities, where our shorelines are going farther away. The fish are no longer where they used to be. Our waters are contaminated. Our families are sick. And instead of stopping, they try to give us more money. They try to buy us off so that they can buy the future from our future generations, and enough is enough. Right now, in those UN negotiating rooms, we have oil executives, we have big banks financing their way to create mechanisms that allow them to continue to pollute by putting forward full solutions like carbon offsets that do nothing but allow these big banks and big polluters to continue to destroy our lands and territories, to cook the books on climate reductions so they can have billions of dollars in their bank accounts while our communities suffer and continue to be sacrifice zones for systems of colonialism, white supremacy, and greed. It's time to say, JP Morgan, pull your money out and stop putting the lives of our communities at risk. Stop killing our lands and territories. Stop killing the planet. Masi cho, hi hi.
Thank you, Indigenous Climate Action from Canada, what's now known as Canada. And we're going to be going to Marcela, the Vice President of the Quechua Peoples of Ecuadorian Amazon, speaking about the Secua people's resistance to oil companies backed by Ecuadorian governments encroaching in their territories, funded by Chase.
Okay. Hola, mi nombre es Nemo y he venido desde muy lejos para alzar nuestras voces, para que vean lo que está sucediendo en la Amazonía y en mi territorio. Yo soy de la nacionalidad guaraní.
Hi, my name is Nemo and I've come from the Ecuadorian Amazon to tell you about our experience. I'm from the Waorani Nation in the Ecuadorian Amazon.
Mi pueblo vive en una reserva que se llama Yasuní en Ecuador y hoy quiero decirle al mundo lo que está sucediendo en Ecuador.
My people live in a park called Yasuni National Park. It's a UNESCO biosphere. And today I've come to tell you about what's happening in Yasuni Park.
Hoy estoy lejos de mi casa, de mi selva, pero hoy está sangrando la selva porque las empresas petroleras están destruyendo lo último que está quedando de los bosques amazónicos.
Today I'm very far away from my home, from my ancestral territories, but the rainforest is dying. It's being destroyed by oil companies that continue to destroy and cut down trees. And they're destroying the last rainforest that we have left.
Hoy, mientras estamos aquí, mi selva está destruyéndose. Miles de kilómetros de hectáreas están ingresando a crear carreteras, están creando plataformas, contaminando el agua, nuestra selva, las montañas. Nuestro cultivo no se puede dar. Ya no podemos, nuestros animales también están muriendo y también la gente está muriendo. Gracias todo a estos bancos que están financiando a las empresas petroleras en Ecuador.
Today, the oil companies are coming into our territories, even as I'm standing here before you. They're building roads, they're cutting in, they're building pipelines, and these are destroying our waters, they're destroying our rivers, our trees, and people are dying, our animals are dying, people are dying, and it's all thanks to these banks that continue to finance horrible oil and gas industries on our territories.
Los gobiernos y los bancos tienen que dejar de financiar a las empresas petroleras porque están matando nuestras tierras, están matando a nuestra gente.
Banks need to stop financing fossil fuels because they're killing our people and they're killing our territories.
Hoy tienen la oportunidad los gobiernos y los bancos de apoyar a la lucha indígena, a la lucha de todos los tiempos que venimos por nuestros ancestros hasta hoy día nosotros, que seguimos en resistencia, para que se quede el crudo bajo tierra, para que no nos sigan matando.
Today, the banks have the opportunity to support indigenous peoples in their fight, in their ancestral fight, in their resistance, in keeping the earth safe by agreeing to keep the oil in the grounds.
Hoy tienen la oportunidad de apoyar a la humanidad y dejar que nuestro planeta quede limpio.
Today, they have the opportunity to help humanity and make sure that our earth maintains itself clean and healthy for future generations.
Nosotros queremos vivir en nuestro bosque porque nuestro bosque es nuestra casa, nuestra farmacia y nuestro hogar. No queremos más contaminación. Queremos que paren los bancos de financiar a las empresas petroleras. Gracias.
We want the banks to stop financing oil companies. Thank you.
No net zero! No net zero! Keep it in the ground! 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 Keep it in the ground!
Muy buenas tardes con todos.
Keep it in the ground!
Mi nombre es Marisela Gualinga, vengo de Ecuador, de la Amazonía, del pueblo originario quichua de Sarayaku.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marisela Gualinga. I'm the Vice President of the Quichua people of Sarayaku in the Ecuadorian Amazon.
Hemos venido horas viajando, días, dejando nuestra familia, dejando nuestra casa, dejando nuestra selva.
We have taken hours, days to get here, leaving behind our family, our community, and our rainforest to come to you today.
Para hacer escuchar nuestra preocupación, nuestro problema que están causando las empresas petroleras en las selvas amazónicas de Ecuador y de toda la Amazonía.
In order to tell you about what exactly is happening in our community and in all of the entire Amazon.
En mi pueblo han querido entrar empresas petroleras, pero nosotros estamos en resistencia. Seguimos en resistencia desde hace años atrás porque nos hemos dado cuenta de nuestros hermanos que ya han explotado, están viviendo en una miseria.
In my community, oil companies have tried to enter into our territories for years. For decades, we've been struggling and resisting the entrance and the invasion of oil companies into our territories. And this is because we've seen how they've affected our brothers and sisters in other communities. And those people are living in misery. They're completely destroyed by the impact of oil companies in their communities.
Nosotros no queremos perder nuestra cultura, nuestros idiomas, nuestra vivencia está ahí en la selva. Y por eso hemos venido a hacer escuchar nuestras voces aquí a los gobiernos que pasan haciendo negocios, tratados, pero nunca para el bien de la Amazonía, de los pueblos indígenas, sino para destruirnos a nosotros.
We're here to protect our culture and our way of life, and we've come to tell you all about the experience that the oil companies are making us pass through in our territories. And we've seen that the governments are not listening to us and that heads of state are not listening to our experiences. And they need to keep oil companies out of our territories.
Quisiera decir aquí a los gobiernos y a los grandes empresarios que nosotros, los pueblos indígenas, no somos el problema, nosotros somos la solución, porque nosotros somos parte de la selva, somos parte del Pachamama.
I want to say to you all and to the governments that are here at COP26 that we indigenous people are not part of the problem. We are the solution.
Y agradecer a todos nuestros hermanos que están aquí, que nos están apoyando, que seamos voceros para estos grandes empresarios, estos bancos, que no financien más a estos empresarios y que dejen, porque no es solo la mina, no es solo la madera que trae dinero, sino hay otras alternativas para poder generar recursos y no estar destruyendo la naturaleza, sino buscar alternativas. Eso es de mi parte, muchas gracias.
I just want to let you all know that these banks need to stop financing oil and gas because there are other ways that don't involve destroying nature of generating solutions and health and wealth for communities. So we need to tell these banks to stop financing fossil fuels already. Thank you.
No net zero! No net zero!
When we say no net zero, what we're saying is we see you for advancing those false solutions. And as we hear the voices of indigenous leaders and indigenous women that are paying the brunt price of climate change, we understand that net zero means the continuation of practices that has got us to climate change in the first place. These schemes and these mechanisms to go ahead and move forward with the expansion of fossil fuels is what net zero is all about. It's about keeping that capitalism alive so that we can continue to wage havoc on indigenous communities. That indigenous women will still be murdered and missing because we're going to get to net zero and not real zero, which means keeping fossil fuels in the ground.
Closing the net!
We're going to hear from Mireya next. Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes con todos aquí presentes. Mi nombre es Mireya Walinga, vengo del pueblo originario quichua de Sarayaku, ubicado en el corazón de la Amazonía ecuatoriana.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mireya Gualinga, and I'm coming to you from the Quichua Sarayaku community located in the heart of the Ecuadorian Amazon.
Quiero preguntar hoy a todos los que están aquí presentes, ¿quieren futuro para sus hijos, para sus nietos?
I want to ask all of you who are here today, do you want a future for your children and your grandchildren?
Entonces, paremos esto, digamos, basta las explotaciones petroleras en los territorios amazónicos, basta.
So let's all say together, enough with oil exploitation in indigenous territories, enough.
Me pregunto todos los días a estos banqueros que financian para explotar los recursos naturales, ¿tendrán hijos? ¿Qué querrán para el futuro de sus hijos?
I ask myself every day, what do these bankers think about the future? Do they want to have children? Do they want to have grandchildren?
Dicen que están buscando un planeta B. El planeta B no existe. Si la Amazonía es explotada, si los recursos naturales, los últimos recursos naturales se nos acaba, el mundo se termina. La humanidad, llegaríamos al exterminio. No solo la humanidad, sino todos los recursos vivos que existen en esta tierra.
They say they're looking for a planet B. There is no planet B. We need to keep the oil in the ground, and we need to make sure that we're all taking care of one another.
Hermanos, familias, hijas, hijos, madres, abuelas, todos, unamos nuestras voces, digamos basta, queremos vivir en paz, respirando aire puro, en tierras libres de contaminación petrolera.
Sisters, grandmothers, mothers, friends, let's all say together, enough is enough. We want to breathe clean air, we want to drink clean water. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really nervous, so bear with me. Hello everybody, my name is Marco Lemus. I come from a small town in the Bay Area called Richmond, California. You might know the Bay Area as San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland, but we don't get much recognition, so I hope y'all remember this day. I'm part of an organization called Urban Tilth. We work a lot with urban farms and community gardens and school gardens, and we are at the end of a lot of poor air quality, and we work a lot outside. I'm here to share my firsthand experience of the destruction that the climate crisis has had on California, and to give voice to the people back home who suffer from respiratory illnesses as a result of air pollution and this fossil fuel-centric economy that JP Morgan invests billions of dollars in. And a lot of the people, that are working outside are BIPOC people, and they're young people who get excited about going to the gardens and learning, especially during COVID when everybody's sheltering in place. Last year we had the largest California wildfire to record, and this year we had the second, and not to mention all the smaller fires happening all around California simultaneously. These fires burn up not thousands, but millions of acres of beautiful forests, displacing not just seniors and retirees, but the animals as well. Millions of acres are being burned as a result of climate crisis. Our world is on fire. In California, we dread the end of summer. And no, not because of hot girl summer, but because of our new fifth season that we call fire season. During this time, the land is extremely dry and the persistent droughts do not help. Last year's record-breaking fires was at the peak of the pandemic, and we all had to switch from regular masking to N95 masks because these are the only ones that can filter out toxic chemicals in the air, since wildfires burn everything in their path. The cars, houses, everything. We could not see the sun. There was so much smoke in the air, it looked like we lived on Mars, or like that scene from the new Blade Runner movie, where everything was orange. This is not a movie, this is reality. On top of the health risks that leave long-term damage to people's lungs as a result of these yearly fires, more and more people are displaced from their homes and out into hotels, and many are not so lucky. People die as a result of these enormous fires. Even more people go missing. We find animals walking streets because their homes for thousands of years were destroyed. And that is not all. California already has a huge housing crisis that gets worse every year. So their fires exacerbate everything else California struggles with as a result of capitalism and privatization that these banks have a heavy hand in. That's not all. Firefighters put their lives on their line and their health on the line every year to ensure these fires don't destroy any more neighborhoods and entire towns. There was such a shortage for firefighters, they had to extract labor and the well-being of imprisoned folks, paying them wages that would be illegal if they were free, and jobs they couldn't get if they were free because they have a criminal record. And they use methods called controlled burns, where they intentionally burn areas so the wildfire runs out of fuel when they reach this area. But these practices are not new and they weren't invented recently. It is indigenous people who practice these traditions for hundreds of years because they knew what the colonizers didn't. But Richmond is not new to respiratory problems. Chevron has been polluting my city for the longest with their constant flaring. Oh, by the way, Richmond has a huge Chevron refinery and it takes up a large portion of our town, and they constantly flare. 2 weeks ago, they had to shut down 3 schools and get in the way of people's education because there was such a heavy smell, but they did not order a shelter in place. And they have close to zero communication with our community, so everybody's always wondering, what is that smell? And Chevron does not let us know. Our respiratory illnesses are twice the rate of that of the state of California, and I wonder why. And the people who are expected to investigate this flaring, Chevron. They've tried to provide solutions, but it's false. It's the same pattern that I see globally happening at a local level. It's the same performative you know, it's the same performance that they put on to make sure that, sorry. Chevron had an explosion in 2012 that sent thousands of people to the hospital because of respiratory problems and other health problems. And who is funding Chevron? These fucks. Between 2016 and 2020, JP Morgan invested $4.6 billion to Chevron. JP Morgan is the largest funder of fossil fuels, providing in total $317 billion in lending and underwriting since the Paris Climate Agreement. We need divestment. We need real solutions. The solutions they provide locally and globally, like I mentioned, follow the same pattern. They are all centered around their profits and not the people. And the economy cannot continue to keep going like this. We need an economy centered around people, human dignity, our youth, and their grandchildren's grandchildren. Put the pressure in any way you can on your politicians to turn down the false solution known as net zero. No net zero, keep that shit in the ground.
Next we have Maricel from Boricua. Marisa. And she's from Puerto Rico.
Thank you, no, don't worry, it's okay. Mi nombre es Marisa Reyes, soy de Puerto Rico. My name is Marisa Reyes. I'm from Puerto Rico, Organización Boricua, part of La Vía Campesina, and also Global Grassroots Global Justice Alliance. I would talk in English, but my first language is Spanish, and I feel sad to do it, but be patient with my English. Thank you to all the people that is protecting to do this protest possible. Thank you to take the street, because that's what we need. We need to take the street every moment that is necessary, because it's our country. This is our planet, and we need to protect. So, saying that, I have to say also to the police that is here recording all the people that are here manifesting, that we are not the problem. The problem is not the people, the problem is the bank. And back at home in Puerto Rico, even the police have to go out and protect, because they are not protected by these people. So they know, because you also doesn't have time for this shit. So, saying that, thank you for giving the space to be part here. I know that as an indigenous, you suffer the colonialism very, very hard. For us in Puerto Rico, it's the same thing. We are a colony of United States, and we suffer the destruction. We suffer the capitalism of disaster. That is how we call it, because we are confronting as a front line the struggles of the crisis, the climate crisis, but also the struggle of the corruption, the struggles of taking everything for us, because the money is first, and not our lives, and not our people, and not our communities. So for us, it's very important to be part of this alliance, to be part of this process, because together we are strong. Because together we have a voice that the government doesn't give to us, and even ask for that voice. So as Puerto Rican, I'm very thankful for being part of this space. And we say not net zero, because net zero is not zero. Because all these big companies and industry, they're just taking time to keep taking out the carbon, the oils, and all the things that we know that contaminate and destroy the planet. And then
after they go to the south to take everything from there to buy by the carbon markets, then they want to build walls to protect and not give interest to the people that are suffering the struggles of the destruction that they made. So we say not net zero because it's not a real solution. We want real solutions, and the real solutions are in the community, are in the indigenous people, are in the Black people. So we need to listen, and we need to keep doing community. We need to keep doing alliance. We need to do solidarity. That's the real solution. Thank you.
Hari Saisozi Dali Sitney. Wet'suwet'en Gidimnan Kasiak Kasli. My name is Delina Call, and I am from Wet'suwet'en Territories. We are currently fighting against Coastal GasLink pipeline, which is funded by big organizations, by capitalist institutions, just like this one right here. And I love the fact that this is blood money, because that's exactly what it's being funded with. The first year that we had raids happening on our Wet'suwet'en territories, this sounds all too familiar. The first year that we had raids happen on our Wet'suwet'en territories, it was the police and militarized forces moving into our lands to remove peaceful Wet'suwet'en people and our guests from our territories, just as they have since contact. The exact same thing has been happening over and over and over again, and it's unacceptable. Now Coastal GasLink has not only destroyed a huge amount of our territories, but essentially split our territories in half. It's also split our people in half. We have become divided because people have become so reliant on these corporate capitalist institutions and the capitalist system that people have been removed from our lands, unable to gather our natural foods, unable to gather fish, our medicines, all for profit. Profit that's funded by JP Morgan Chase. Who else? I'm not even sure who else is funding. Sorry, I ran here. But this is the worst part, I think, of all of this was listening to my Tsakaise when I had to call them and let them know that police forces moved into our territories. One of my Tsakaise automatically started crying, sobbing, and said, they're doing exactly what they've done since I was a little girl. They're removing us at gunpoint. They're taking our territories and destroying them. And that broke my heart, because there's no way that this 80-year-old woman should have to live through this over and over again. There is no way that I should ever have to feel unsafe on my territories. I live in an area where we have a stretch of highway called the Highway of Tears. It's where so many of our women have gone missing or been murdered. And with these extractive projects and these extractive industries come violence against our women. There's no way that I should have to go out and wonder if today is the day that I go missing, just so that people can get wealthier and wealthier while our nations become poorer and poorer. Because our economy is not based on a monetary system. Our economy is based on our lands. Our economy is based on our people, on the knowledge that our traditional systems hold. That's what our economy is. Our economy is based on the fact that every single one of us listens to and is guided by our matriarchs that are being stolen, that are going missing, that are being murdered, that are being threatened by these policing systems out here. Because they're all the same. It doesn't matter what borders, what imperial imposed borders you see. The policing systems are here solely to ensure that capitalist systems and corporations continue. They're here to eradicate us. And we can't stand by silently as this continues to happen. So I ask everybody here to ensure that you know where your dollars are going. And it's not just to organizations like this, it's not just to institutions like this, it's funneled down into other areas. Be cognizant of what you're doing and stand up so the Indigenous people are not standing alone. I see a lot of non-Indigenous people in the front here, all through the crowd. It's your responsibility too to make sure that you stand up and you put yourself in front so that people like me, so that my sisters, so that everyone that's Indigenous that has been fighting their entire lives sometimes just to survive, so that we don't have to do it because we are tired. We are tired of institutions and organizations like this taking our land, taking our people. I have to live with this, thinking of these man camps coming into our territories. And I have to remember my cousins who were stolen from us. I have to remember Cecilia, Delphine, Ramona, Danielle, Francis, Cindy, Resente, all of these women that have gone missing or been murdered. And yet the police forces are on our territories to remove peaceful people and our own people from unceded lands. There's something wrong with that. And I need everybody here's voices to be louder, as loud as you can make them, because we shouldn't have to shout alone. Speak up, stand in the way of colonial corporate organizations like this. Tabi Masai.
We want to thank everybody for coming here today and joining us for listening to Indigenous voices and Indigenous leadership and telling Chase, we're tired of your blood money. We're tired of you making money off the backs of Indigenous communities and destroying our Mother Earth. We're tired of you thinking that all she is here for is for you to gain money and more power and more control. Enough is enough. And understand that as Indigenous people, this knowledge needs to come forth and come front so that we all may survive. That we understand that we are all tied together in this. And this message of defunding Chase, take back home with you. Take to your communities. Every time you see a Chase bank, go in there and raise some hell. Let them know. And so how we're going to close this now is it does take all of us together. It takes those roots to come together to weather that storm. It takes those roots to come together to find real solutions towards climate change. Understanding that carbon markets and net zero is another scam to access unceded territories of Indigenous peoples, and we ain't going to take it. So we're just going to do this little chant, say it takes roots, roots, roots to weather the storm, storm, storm. Because us collectively have those roots in our communities, and let's bring that forward. Let's hit it.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Y'all gonna stand with me? Woo! Let's get it. I want y'all all screaming it. Y'all heard my brother right here with the chacho. Let's get it. You excited?